Okay, we'd like to call to order the May 7th, 2019 meeting of the Utilities Committee. If everyone would please rise for the invocation and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. The prayer this evening is to be led by the Reverend Ken Dawson.
Now let us pray. Father, we thank you for your continued blessings, and we thank you for the opportunity to serve the people of Ascension Parish. We thank you for the grace that you continually bestow upon us. We thank you for your divine wisdom and guidance which you consistently give us. We thank you for all the things that you continually done in this parish, protecting us through even the hurricane season, watching over us through all the situations and concerns that we may have. So as we come tonight, we ask for your guidance, we ask for your direction, and Father, we thank you for the truth to do the people's business well. We ask this in the name of your Son, Jesus Christ. Amen. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, the third item on our agenda this evening is the chair's additions. Basically, there isn't any, but I do have a little housekeeping chore. The last item on our agenda, which is a consideration of a cooperative endeavor agreement. It lists between the two entities of Ascension Parish and the Ascension Sewer LLC. The Ascension Parish is in error. That should read the Ascension Consolidated Utility District Number 2, aka ACUD 2. Public comment period number 4. Anyone wishing to speak on any of the items this evening, please come forward, fill out a red or green card. As you know, red if you're against it, green if you're for it. Give it to our secretary, and I'm sure she'll give it to me, and you'll be given 3 minutes to speak during that item. Let's see, we're on item number 5, is approval of the minutes. The chair will entertain that motion.
Motion. Second. I'll take it.
Okay, this was the April 9th, 2019 minutes. It's been motioned by Mr. Joseph, second by Mr. Dawson to approve. Are there any discussion? Is there any objection? Hearing none, those minutes are part of the record. Item number 6 is the director's report. Tonight we'll be hearing about the public meeting on May 14th in the Donaldsonville Courthouse, the CDBG update and the USDA update. Mr. Daniel.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members. We will be having a public meeting on May 14th at the Donaldsonville Courthouse. We've advertised for it in the Donaldsonville paper, and it is also on the website. And we'll be discussing the USDA project in Donaldsonville and the proposed rates. And we're hoping that everybody will come out and take the opportunity to learn about all the fascinating and wonderful things that are happening at the water plant and with the distribution system, and the unfortunate side effect of that is having to raise the rates to pay those bills. But we will be talking about all that May 14th at the Donaldsonville Courthouse. On the CDBG project, the Hillary Darrow project, have some very, very good news. The bids were received. We estimated the cost to be about $6 million, and the low bid came in at $4.386 million. Not to say that there weren't some $6 million bids. There was even an $8.1 million bid, but there were 6 bids. 5 of them were $6 million or less, and then there was one higher one. So we're very excited about that, and that project will get started. It is, of course, all part of the Southern Regional System. We'll actually be building a pipeline from there to the Hillaryville plant. But most importantly, we're going to be connecting a bunch of homes. Part of that HUD grant allows us to go into those homes and take out the systems that they're using and connect our system. So we're very excited about that. Also on moving on to the USDA update, work is still proceeding on the engineering, both on the distribution system and on the water plant. I've been talking to the bond attorneys, and we put together a cost analysis for the loan, and they're going to be taking that to the bond commission. So that's the end of the director's report, Mr. Chairman. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Daniel. Before we take questions, let me back up again. I was negligent in my duties on the chair's addition. A couple of the housekeeping items. Madam Secretary, let the record show all members of the Utilities Committee are present this evening. And we're also, of course, delighted to have our council chairwoman, Terry Casso, sitting in with us. Questions for the director's report?
No, I'll save.
I do want to point out that meeting in Donaldsonville is at 6 p.m. So
Yeah, that was the other housekeeping, thanks. Yeah.
it's at 6 p.m. at the Donaldsonville Courthouse.
6 p.m. on the 14th, Downsville Court House. Okay. No questions?
No,
Mr. Joseph?
yes, and the only thing is, can we put that on the big board in Donaldsonville when they come into town too, Mr.?
I'm not sure what big board you're referring to, sir.
Well, Oliver can put it on there.
All right, I'll make sure that, I guess Miss Gagnon, I can contact her to,
Ashley, yes.
yeah.
Yes.
Okay,
Okay.
I'll contact her tomorrow.
And we're going to put a sign at the business office too.
Okay, all right. That's all I have.
Further questions, Terry? Okay, moving right along, item number 7 is the Louisiana Department of Environmental Quality. They're coming here tonight, Mr. Chuck Berger. We want to welcome you here, sir, to talk to us about maintaining our home sewage treatment systems. That's going to be both, I think, referencing the MODAD systems as well as the septic systems. Mr. Berger? And we're very happy to have him here tonight. I see, Chuck, you were able to get everything up here through that elevator, carrying a lot of materials, so.
Yes, yes, and I want to just say hello to the chairman and the esteemed members of the committee. I want to thank you for letting me come out and share some information with you tonight. I know most of you know me and have met me several times in the past, and I recognize you. I think the first time I came out here was in 2009, when we were coming to inform about TMDLs that were coming for Bayou Manchac, New River, and Blind River. For those of you that don't know, that TMDL is essentially a pollution budget for a stream that establishes loading limitations, and those are simply permit limits. It also establishes some loading on limitations on non-point loads as well. Since that time, the program has taken on a different approach at the national level. We met with you a couple of years ago to describe some of that, and we're simply here again to re-engage and establish a line of communication as we go forward with these projects. The projects for New River and Blind River are going to be finished, and the reports will be done in 2021 and 2022, but the work will be ongoing after that. And just to share with you a little bit of what we're looking at is that the water bodies for New River and Blind River are impaired for dissolved oxygen and fecal coliform. There were previous impairments or suspected impairments for nutrients that were tied to the dissolved oxygen impairments. So with our new approach, and it's called officially a long-term vision for assessment, restoration, protection under the Clean Water Act Section 303D program. We know of it more affectionately as the New Vision. And so this New Vision is started in 2016 officially and goes through 2022. All the states, along with EPA across the country, worked to formulate this new vision, and there was a lot of effort put forth to get EPA to buy off on it. But some of the big changes for us was it gave us more flexibility in designing our priorities, understanding that states had limited resources, and it allows us to better utilize our resources to lead to water quality improvements. And the whole goal is water quality restoration and protection. TMDLs, like I said, established water quality permit limits. This is a little different approach. So some of the activities that really everything is on the board for use under what we're calling a TMDL alternative. So we are in the process of designing monitoring programs under this new vision. It's separate from our normal assessment monitoring, but we're going to be collecting hydrologic data as well as water quality, nutrients, dissolved oxygen, everything that you can think of. We're going to be collecting that throughout various sites within the watersheds, and we're going to be doing it monthly, probably for at least 2 years, maybe longer. So that's why I say the activities will go on beyond when the reports are turned in, and the reports will describe how those activities are going to carry on going forward. We'll be inspecting both the point sources and non-point sources, primarily the individual homes. These are not new avenues for us. Various programs at DEQ already handled that, but with the new vision, there'll be a more intense focus, more prioritized structure. We will be reviewing in-house documentation. That along with the water quality sampling that we'll be doing will guide us on where we need to focus and looking at additional inspections. Plus, as we find problems, we'll work to get those fixed. Might require rehabbing or some upgrades in some cases. But we'll have follow-up inspections as well. New River and Blind River are rather large watersheds, had a lot of point sources in them and a lot of individual homes as well. And so typically on the individual homes, it's just a matter of people turning on their unit is what we found. Sometimes it's something simple as going out and clearing out the weeds and the ants from the unit, the aerators. So that's what we found a lot of, and so we'll be going out when I say inspect on the individual homes and the point sources as well. It's also about educating them and ensuring that they make the proper adjustments so that the plants are operated and maintained properly. So with that, if all is successful and taking these water bodies off the list, then it would forego the immediate need for a TMDL. In EPA's eyes, if we do all of this, we correct all the problems, and the water body's still impaired, then a TMDL will still be needed at some point. So I hit it kind of the high points there, and I would be glad to take any questions that you might have. I will say this, though, part of my goal is to come here, educate, provide some information, but I also wanted to again, it's starting an ongoing engagement process. I don't expect that this will be the end of it. I would anticipate additional public meetings. That's what we're going to be doing in other parishes as well, where we've have our priority water bodies that we're working on, but also to gain contacts. I think we have contact from, for setting up future meetings, but some contacts on the technical level as we go forward with these projects where we can share data, that sort of thing, provide additional information. So.
Yes, I believe Mr. Dawson has a question.
Yeah, thank you, Chuck. Like on the inspection of these individual homes, is that gonna be 100% of them in this impaired waterway, or is this gonna be a random sample, or how are you gonna do those?
Well, I can tell you what we've done in the past. It will be, it has been 100% of them. Due to the sheer number, we might have to prioritize how we work that out, focus on certain areas that are gonna make the best improvements in the water quality in the stream.
Okay. What is the schedule for completing the monitoring? And then I would assume at some point in this 6-year period here, you're going to do a report with your findings, and then there's going to be, to determine whether we still need the TMDLs or not. What does that schedule look like?
I can give you some idea of that. We are working to have a group of sites, proposed monitoring sites, later this year. We'll turn that over to our people that go out and conduct the surveys. As their schedule allows, they'll go out and recon the sites, see which sites are suitable. They look at access as well as safety. They don't like to sample on anything that doesn't have a shoulder and it has a lot of traffic. But I would expect later this year, early next year, we would like to have a approved survey plan, as we call it. And then the monitoring would start after that at some point. A lot of it will depend on their schedule.
couple of years later, you'll have
Yeah.
the report?
Well, the reports will be turned into EPA by September 30th of 2021 and 2022. It'll be 2021 for Blind River, 2022 for New River.
Okay. Are they gonna be going on people's property, or is it just gonna be at the tailpipe, the discharge?
They may have to go on people's property. That's what, we work with our partners that go out there and do this thing every day and are familiar with addressing homeowners and showing them how to operate the system, that sort of thing. So it's not necessarily a DEQ employee that may be out there. It's,
You may contract this out.
yeah,
So,
mostly it'll probably be people that you're familiar with.
okay. You know, from your, and I'm sure you guys have done the research on this, but the problems that we're having on the impaired streams of dissolved oxygen and fecal coliform, how much of that do you think comes from these individual treatment units versus the subdivision, the larger scale units?
That's not something that I would say I've had the data and can give you a sort of response on that. I can say that, you know, when TMDLs were done, we really had no way of categorizing that or quantifying that.
So let me make sure, and you're not just gonna sample these individual treatment plants, the home treatment plants, you're gonna sample the larger scale, the subdivision plants also, is that correct? Or is
Sampling-
this gonna be targeted towards the individual plant?
The sampling will typically occur in stream, and it may focus on areas where we have clusters of
Okay.
homes and point sources.
So
Yeah, as-
you're gonna be in a ditch somewhere, not necessarily at somebody's tailpipe.
Yeah, I mean, that hasn't been done yet. It's, I guess, a possibility. But the idea is the monitoring will do two things. It will guide us to where some of the hot spots may be, but it'll also be used to track water quality improvements. Because at the end of this, we want to give a success story. The main success story is if these water bodies come off the impaired water bodies list. Another level success story is we can show definite water quality improvements to justify what we've been doing. And then I guess a third level is if we find, you know, a number of problems out there and having a certain percentage of that fixed. So there's a lot of different ways to tell that story.
But what if a parish like Ascension chose to go out on their own and monitor the discharges and the operation of these individual treatment plants? Is that, how could that tie into this program?
I would think that if y'all, you know, chose to do something like that, they would be symbiotic, it would be supportive. And that's something that we would probably want to roll into this, you know? None of what we're doing here is anything new. We're just capturing things that have, you know, different parts of our agency are doing and rolling up into one.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Chuck.
You're welcome, Mr. Lolo.
Yes, kind of piggybacking on to what Councilman Dawson said, first of all, thank you for being here. But you had mentioned testing, Councilman Dawson just mentioned testing. If we got, I guess, into that, testing the different systems, do you have a suggestion on how often it should be done?
Not really.
Not really, okay.
You're talking about testing individual homes?
Yes.
I'm really not aware of anybody doing that. I know in some cases that we do have some documentation that are the folks that we contracted with are looking at fecal coliform, but I know y'all have some things proposed, but I really don't have an idea of how long individual homes should be tested.
Maybe not how long, but like a duration between tests? Maybe I didn't ask it.
I really don't have an idea on that.
Okay, well, thank you, though. That's all I have for right
I
now.
will. I do know that it does get expensive.
Yes.
So, Mr. Berger, again, thank you for coming this evening. What is the current state law for individual sewer system inspections by the LDEQ?
Individual homes?
Yes. Frequency, I mean, like, is there a state law that says that the LDEQ is mandated to go to house X, house Y, house Z, and inspect? It sounds like when your answer to Mr. Dawson's question, it was more think you used the word tailpipe, not so much coming out of an individual home as would be in a ditch and so forth. And I can understand it would be an undaunting task, if not impossible in our parish, because we've been already told by our infrastructure development director, Mr. Daniel, that we have some 17,000 septic systems and another 17,000 MODAD systems on top of the package plants. So, you know, I'm keen to hear more. We're thinking about actually Obamacare type repeal and replacing our sewer ordinances and starting over from scratch and actually putting, we don't envision a testing lab. We don't envision going out and making a sampling, chain of custody, all that kind of stuff for the samples. But maybe having a law that would require that the individual property owners have their system certified at a certain frequency. And if they don't do that, of course, there would be a penalty. And even if they did, you know, we could monitor this with SCADA systems and so forth. And I believe you've already said that you would find that symbiotic. You would like to have that data.
Well, if there was data that y'all collected, I'd say certainly, I mean, we're looking to partner with the parish. So having that available to us and recognizing the efforts that y'all take, whatever they may be, and rolling into the report, I think that would serve as a good example for the state and the rest of the country. I can tell
kind
you,
of asked the second question, but the first one is, what is the current state law for individual sewer inspection by the LDEQ? Is there a law?
by LDEQ, I'm not aware of any. We do address non-point loads, and that is where the individual homes come into play.
How about, is there any law about the frequency of having maybe a honey wagon, quote, come out and totally, you know, vacuum out your entire system if you're a MODAD or a septic?
I'm not aware of any law. I know there's recommendations to do it every 5 years or so or something like that. I think we provided a video to the parish regarding that, and it was very well done, and the intent was to use that for future outreach efforts.
I think Mr. Daniel wants to add.
Mr. Chairman, I just wanted to, LDH monitors the home system.
Okay, so it's a different,
DEQ
it's a different watchdog agency, but there is state law out there. Is that, just for the record? That's what I was fishing
Yeah, the key
for.
term that you said there was
LDEQ.
by the LDEQ.
Okay. Frankly, I'd say, well, it does matter who the organization is, but, you know, there are multiple, I want the people to understand that maybe watching this at home, state watchdog agencies who can, did have different missions and goals and so forth, but they can and do come out, inspect in different ways, and consequences can be quite different. I want people to understand that, let's say the LDH has a frequency, and I don't know what it is, perhaps I should as a chair of utilities, of on honey wagon evacuation once a year or once every 2 years, or just individual inspection every 2 months or monthly, whatever. Is my belief that these 34,000 systems that I mentioned, that we would find that a large percentage of those folks would be violators. And whether you continue with TMDL, you know, or some alternative, but certainly fecal coliforms was mentioned, the O2 and so forth, I think we would find a lot of violations there. My follow-up too then is, are you currently inspecting the 100% of the package plants or not? And if so, is that also ditch related versus coming out of the plant itself?
Well, the plants are going to, they typically turn in their own monitoring reports. Again, so we won't be, at least the plan now is, we don't have in there monitoring of the
I'm
individual
talking about
plants.
subdivision package plants now. I'm not
Yeah,
talking about,
yeah.
you know, like tertiary big-time sewer plants.
Yeah, I mean, currently we haven't really thought about monitoring or testing individual plants as a practice. Maybe that could be used if we saw issues at certain facilities, but that's really, you know, our monitoring has been all in stream. The inspections will occur of the point sources, and a lot of that, again, is something that goes on already. The majors and significant minors get inspected every year, and then there's some others that get inspected on a rotational basis.
Mr. Chairman, if I might interrupt. So the package plants, they collect a sample, they send them to a certified lab. The lab sends back the information, they fill out a DMR, and then they submit the DMR to the state, which is a public record, so you
Right.
can look them up.
Yeah, and for the record, there have been and continue to be violations there. Is that not, well, you wouldn't know that, but the LDH, I guess, would. Okay, You mentioned on 9/30/21 for Blind River, 9/30/22, what I captured for New River. You're gonna be looking, having turned attention, and you put in the record that Bayou Manchac is an impaired waterway. What's the chances that these other two waterways are gonna wind up being impaired as well? Would you take a wild swag estimate at that?
They are currently listed as impaired.
Oh, so they are?
Yeah.
Okay. So you'll be confirming that. The only other thing I have, and we're gonna move to my left with Mr. Joseph in a minute. In our packets, public can't see it, we have a wonderful two-page thing. It's called After the Flush, Your Home Sewage Treatment System. And it discusses the ATUs, aerated treatment units, which I'm gonna go out on a limb and assume that's MODADs, and then the septic system, which isn't even as good, I guess, as a MODAD, because it's not aerated. And then the second page goes into how do you know which one you got, and how do you know you're having trouble? And so I would like to see, Mr. President, that at least be put on our AscensionParish.net website for the folks at home to see, unless you plan on covering that this evening, Mr. Berger, or
Covering what now?
what's in our packet for this item? Maybe you're not aware of it, or,
No, I'm not aware of it.
okay, it's very colorful and it's called After the Flush, Your Home Sewage Treatment System.
Okay.
Not your document?
No.
Okay. Okay. Mr. Joseph?
No question, Doc.
Karen?
I'm good, thank you at this point.
Mr. Johnson?
So Chuck, thanks for coming. So with the study or work that y'all are fixing to encompass, do y'all envision doing some like of map or map that you can go in and kind of look at and see what you update the results as what y'all are finding or going through there to where people can go and look and see what maybe is happening in the area?
Any type of map would probably be somewhere down the line. We had thought about an idea of interactive map like other parts of our agency are doing. I think, was it the Mercury program had done one, and it's really got a lot of attention, you know. But we have thought about doing something like that.
I think that might be helpful to the local people to have that ability to go in there and see what kind of impact they're having in that area. I guess the other question is, after the study comes up, are y'all going to propose any type of solutions other than raising TMDLs? And we've always talked about in the past, when you've come in, we've talked about dilution is a solution to the pollution, right? I mean, so are there any possible effects coming into introducing some type of other type of things we've talked about, whether it be taking water out of the Mississippi River and using that at times, certain times to flush through Manchac or New River or any of those type of water bodies to help dilute some of the high levels that we're seeing in these water bodies?
No, that's not something that we're really thinking about right now. Like I said, we're looking at correcting the problems that we can, that are out there now, you know. In some of our watersheds where we're working, some of the problems may be wildlife, you know.
Right.
So, but we want to focus on the things that we can fix here, and then see if there's a need for additional action. I can tell you that from the experience I've seen so far in some of our smaller watersheds where we started at, this was a whole new approach we had to work out and kind of iron out the bugs. But we have seen the inspections take place and some facilities get referred to enforcement and result in corrective actions, and thereby improving fecal coliform accounts. We've seen things that need permits that should have been permitted that maybe the owners didn't know, but so corrective actions there as well. In one of our watersheds, see the inspections that I described before, we have done it in some of our watersheds where we just do a full sweep. We're going to knock on every door, find out, inspect all the facilities, find on them, some of them that may have not realized they needed a DEQ permit. And some of those, one of those watersheds in particular where we've done that, that happened to occur in August of 2017, right in between our monitoring cycles, 2016 and 2018. 2016 was paired for fecal coliform. 2018, it's not. So we're thinking that's a success story, an example of how this is going to work.
Okay, thank you.
Second round, Mr. Dawson.
I don't have any questions. I have a request if, I'd like the administration to set up a meeting that perhaps we can discuss with Mr. Berger or whoever at DEQ about the synergism of us sampling these individual treatment plants in some combination with LDEQ on this project.
Other Mr. Dawson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just real quick, Chuck, again, thank you. I know we've been talking for quite some time. Second time you brought that big poster. I know it's hard getting up the elevator, but nevertheless, there's one question we have. There's a lot of projects that we're looking at over on Highway 22, that area that discharges into, if I'm not mistaken, the New River, Blind River watershed. Since we're looking at a reduction, okay, on bad actors that's caused a need to possibly increase the TMDLs or do some changes there, with the consideration of those projects, possibly give us a situation that we don't have a negative effect on that watershed and that by reduces a need to take action.
Yeah.
We have a big project that's going to be discharging into the Mississippi River, which is that we would not go into that watershed. So
If you're conducting projects that are gonna divert that load elsewhere or reduce the load to the watersheds, it sounds like what you're talking about, then that's probably something that we want to mention in the report. And I would just say that in one of the parishes we work with, they actually partner with our non-point group to provide funding for additional personnel for them to do the inspections of the home units.
But one thing, the reason why we looked at that was, again, when we talked about this several years ago, we knew that we had a possibility of projects going on in that area. Mr. Daniel has taken that further. Now he just said, we just got an approval of a bid today that's going to get that going. So again, I think that we need to make sure that we have those conversations so that would be considered.
Yes, one of the things I'd like to do here is, again, we want to start the engagement process. We want to get the contacts that we need to get for going forward and sharing information. And then I think, too, that I remember when I was out here before, there was talks of starting some what they call hotspot monitoring. And if you had any sort of data like that, we'd like to include that into this, and that way we can look at that time frame and looking at what it is now, and just help us track water quality improvements, or maybe it's not improving, or what have you, you know?
And there's no, we could just add this. This is what Councilman Chairman Satterley was talking about, adding to our website. That's no problem. We okay? We have authorization to do this without?
I mean, I have to look at it. I don't.
Okay, well, I will get you after the meeting. We could put it on there, Mr. Satterley, if that's.
Thank you. Any further questions for Mr. Berger? Okay, hearing none, we'll move to the next item on the agenda, which is item number 8, entitled Brilliant Efficiencies. This is LED lighting opportunities for Ascension Parish. Quick history, Mr. Jason Hewitt, are you coming up? I guess it was Mr. Jeff Pettit who emailed me not too long ago and asked me about, was I aware of this program? I was not. Looked into it. It looked like it had some opportunities maybe for the parish. Spoke to Mr. Daniel about it. Mr. Daniel knew about it. No surprise there. And he said, yeah, I would get with Mr. Hewitt and see if they're willing to come here and give us a presentation. Without stealing any thunder, this may be an opportunity where we can save a little bit on utility bills and so forth, and whatever monies are involved in it, pay it back real quickly and so forth. And looks like we're getting a handout right now. So take it away, Mr. Hewitt.
Oh, sure, and I do have a presentation that should be loaded up as well. It's the same as you have as your handout. A lot of this is just going to first be points of information for you. Most people now are aware of the benefits of LED, where you've got lower energy costs, lower maintenance costs, and certainly better lighting quality that goes in. We're doing projects across the state concerning LED and street lighting, and you've got a big public safety improvement. We are about to commence with a project in the city of Gonzales to upgrade approximately 970 street lights to LED lighting. So in the next few months, you'll start seeing a dramatic change here in the city of Gonzales. Just a little points of information in other areas where, especially residential areas in cities, they've noticed a reduction of crime in the hours of 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. And that is pointing directly towards the improvement in lighting. And the other piece go here. The other piece here is, again, you've got, on average, anywhere from 45 to 70% of less power usage, which means lower bills, but with an output usually over 2.5 times the amount of light that existing streetlights do. You also have a very low failure rate when you've got quality products. Typically, the failure rate of a quality LED is under 1%, which is a pretty phenomenal rate, with a typical warranties are going from 5 to 10 years and rated lifespans of 50,000 to 150,000 hours. That's up to about 33 years under normal usage. And one of the unique things that can occur with LED lighting that you don't have here is you can perform on-demand maintenance if you incorporate smart lighting systems that will automatically report back whenever a light is not functioning. A lot of complaints from citizens are about, hey, the lights are out in my street. Currently, there's not a mechanism for that to be reported other than a phone call, typically into the parish or into the utility company, Entergy. So smart lighting systems would certainly self-identify and allow for ease of maintenance. One of the things that we're working on in Jefferson Parish is a pilot program in which we're integrating a smart lighting system into their 911 center. And this will allow first responders who are responding to an incident to actually receive a notification from the light of where the incident is. So the light will actually strobe, and this is through an automated process in which the 911 dispatcher, as part of their call out, will simply click a button, and the result will be that the responders will be able to identify where that location is. So during the day, the light can pulse and turn on or blink the same at night. So pretty unique system. The other things that smart lighting systems can do is they can provide important information such as air quality monitoring, weather data, car counts, and things of that nature if you would so choose to do something like that. And the last piece is talking about how do you pay for it. We've been very successful in obtaining a variety of funding sources and grants for municipalities. We'd like to make an effort to do the same for the Parish of Ascension. As you can see, if we're successful in doing those things, it's a pretty dramatic drop in the price. You're probably paying anywhere from $10 to $15 per streetlight per month. And if we're able to obtain, any form of grant funding to do the upgrades and upgrade to LED, that price drops to about $4.68 a month in comparison to on this particular fixture. There would be a variety, and that range is usually $3 to $5 per month. So it is certainly worth the while of the parish to look at this, and we would love to work with Mr. Daniel or anyone that the committee would assign to us.
Okay. Is that it?
That's it.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Hewitt, Councilman Dawson.
So I'm wondering, where's the funding at for you guys? What's your, where do you make money off of this? Or-
So we're based here in Gonzales. We're a lighting distributor and a general contractor. So we work with municipalities in a couple of instances. We would put together the grant application, we'd manage that process, and we'd fulfill that process as well. In particular, with the city of Gonzales, the funding came from the statewide energy efficiency program that's administered by the Louisiana Public Service Commission. So that is one source that we would look to
So
bring
let me
into
see
bear.
if I have this right. So you would go and you would make the application for the grant, follow that procedure. If we got the grant, then you would do the work and supply the materials. Is that
That's
is that
correct.
And so, what is that? That would be under a agreement type basis as what you would charge us for that, or how?
Sure, we actually don't charge in that instance. We don't charge the parish anything. There's not a requirement for a match.
And
No, but what I'm saying, what you're gonna charge, you're gonna charge us something for this material and labor to put this in, correct?
it would actually, in that particular program, the parish doesn't receive the funds. They're administered directly by the PSC. So we actually would issue our reports and invoices to the PSC for payment.
So who would your contract be with, PSC?
We do a contract with, effectively with them, and we would do a contract with the parish as well. Typically, our parish contracts are like hold harmless type contracts because there's no there's no financial transaction between the parish.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Lolo?
Yes, sir, thank you for coming. What about disposal of the lights, LED lights? Are there environmental concerns?
That's one of the good benefits of LED. There's no, currently in high-pressure sodium and mercury vapor lights, there is mercury in both of those fixtures. They have an exemption right now, but they are going to be phased out over the next few years. With LED lighting, there are no hazardous materials that are in the process. So as far as throwing an LED light, you can just throw it in a general landfill.
Good. With regard to areas that don't have lighting districts, that may just have a neighborhood paying for it, do you provide services for them?
Yes, we can, and we can do that through the Public Service Commission program as well. So they would qualify as well.
Okay. My last question may be directed towards Mr. Dawson, Ken Dawson. Sorry, I don't want to surprise you. I know we're pursuing LED lights for our baseball and softball fields right now. We're trying to get a $3 million
Yes.
low-interest loan. Does this correspond with that, or how can this work together?
That's from Department of Natural Resources is where we're getting, it's a SRF type loan. So it's a low interest loan from DNR, okay? This is different. Commissioner Scametta spoke to me about this a while ago, and it's a different program altogether, okay? It's a different program.
Okay.
And by the way, just got a report on that today. We look very promising that we will be approved for that DNR.
Okay,
project.
great. Thank you. And thank you also.
No problem.
Yeah, so Mr. Ewert, just reviewing real quickly, I always like to keep score. The LED system, you mentioned we had increased lumens, reduced crime, 40 to 75% less power usage, lower failure rate than the, I guess, sodium vapor lights that are currently being used in most municipalities and parishes and counties. Ability to integrate into the 911 call center with the strobe feature you talked about, and even other bells and whistles like weather and car counting. Can be paid for with some sort of a, I'm just going to put in quotes, granting program, however this would work. And on that topic, the statewide energy efficiency program you talked about that was used in Gonzales, that program I assume is still extant?
It does. It still exists. There is a November 1st, or approximately November 1st deadline to apply for funds for next year.
Okay. And so could you tell us for the city, like how much replacement of their, just call them old style bulbs, this new LED system, did they do? How long is it going to take for them to pay it off? And, is it working for the city?
So the installation part has not started. The award that the city got was approximately $930,000. It is effectively going to replace every street light in the city limits of Gonzales. And we are working through with Entergy right now to schedule out that work. The installation process is probably going to take approximately 90 days, and I expect that work to begin around August 1st.
Okay, that's all I have. OJ?
Doc, may I ask a
Oh,
question?
sorry, Mr. President.
Okay, so the city of Gonzales pays all the lights. In the parish, we have some lighting districts. So if we were to get a grant, let's say in Mr. Sally's district for lights, and it would pay for the installation, and then the residents would have to pick up the monthly cost after that, correct?
That's correct. The monthly cost should go down because you're putting up a.
The problem is, we don't have a district in every,
We don't have a lighting
Yes,
district
lighting
everywhere.
district.
And
And
my
so-
district is one of them.
and I had tried to talk with Energy about trying to help.
Right.
We come up with some, and they didn't really have anything to to help us in that area. Mr. Joseph has one, and Mr. Dawson has one, and
Turner,
no,
I don't have
none.
I don't see any issues with the parish itself making the application in absence of lighting districts.
No, but what I'm saying is that if we did do it in areas of the parish, we'd have to pick up the light bills after it was installed, is what I'm saying.
Sure, yeah, someone still has to pay the bill.
The lighting district should still pay the bill.
No, but
If you
if
do it
I'm
in
doing
the
a
area.
district, you don't have a lighting
There are
district.
areas that have no lighting.
If there are no lighting districts, no revenue to pay for it.
No, but the ones for the lighting districts, like my
Correct.
district,
I mean, it's, yeah.
You know, like if the parish wanted to light up certain highways and stuff, I guess we could get together with something like that, but we'd have to pay the monthly bill after it would be installed.
In reality, Mr. President, I don't want to put words in your mouth, because we have talked about it a little bit about in my district. It would be nice to see us have additional lighting districts than we have, and then we could just embrace the concept just from the standpoint of everybody. Like you said, you're doing the entire city of Gonzales, so with I think you said a $930,000 award, and that's nice. Mr. Joseph.
Yeah, you mentioned energy. Energy is currently putting LED lights up in my lighting district as they're phasing them out. So how would that, I mean, they're already doing it.
Sure,
So-
I think the benefit that you'll see is the reduced the reduced monthly cost. An Entergy LED light is going to run anywhere from $14 to $16 a month. So one of the challenges that the utility has is they've modeled their tariffs off of having to visit. You know, they assume that they have to visit that light once a year, and that goes into the pricing as well as the cost of the fixture. And a very small portion of that is the power consumption that the fixture does. So while they are doing upgrades to LED, you're paying more. That lighting district is paying more for that LED light.
So they overcharge me now. So I can basically do energy.
Energy, okay. Just wanted it in the record.
Yeah, energy. So they you know, basic, I don't want to say it in this term, but I mean, they're just taking people money.
You know, they're a big private enterprise, and they're out to make as much money as they possibly can.
And they also governed by the Public Service Commission. So I should complain to the Public Service Commission, they overcharging me.
That's who is over the tariffs that are established for all street lighting. Yes, sir.
Okay, thanks for the information. All right.
Terry?
No, thank you. I'm one of those areas with no lighting district.
Benny?
Thank you, sir. So by the chart you're saying here, the utility would charge more than what if we own the light. But what's the responsibility on the utility company to maintain it and replace it, since it's on their power supply and on their poles?
If it's parish-owned, you can enter into an agreement with the utility to provide maintenance, or you can enter into an agreement with an electrical contractor to provide maintenance. With a quality LED fixture, I would recommend to do an on-demand maintenance, because that fixture, especially through the warranty period, is just going to perform and do what it's supposed to do. Then you've got your situations where you've got acts of God, so car accidents and things like that. And that's where you could trigger an on-demand response. You've got great electrical contractors in this parish. You could keep the money here local, and they would do a good job.
So the grant that you talked about with the smart lighting systems, does that the grant cover the smart lighting system, or is that additional cost to the parish or the lighting district for that installation?
It can cover the equipment. There could be additional costs that the parish could elect to do or not to do, and that's basically the communication infrastructure for systems to talk to, operators of the parish. But that would, the parish would elect whether they would want to do that or not.
So if we went with this, or the council member who has the lighting district, if they chose to go after this grant, they would also have to come up with an additional contract for maintenance on the system as well, which would be an additional cost to the lighting district. And then the other part of, the grant would pay for the installation and the material, but once it gets beyond that, the monthly cost plus the
the maintenance costs would have to be absorbed by the lighting district. So that would have, I guess that would be per council member that has those different lighting districts to make that kind of a decision whether or not they wanted to proceed with that. But it's an additional cost that I don't know where it would balance out at. If you went to energy, would they try to basically come up with the same, you'd wind up with the same kind of cost, or would it be cheaper for them to do the maintenance on it, or whether you would have to go to, you may get a better deal on a third party, but that would have to be all worked out, right?
That's right. Entergy is going to be governed by the LPSC and the tariffs that are existing for that. And in my experience, you're highly likely to be able to work out a better deal with a local service company.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so we're going to have a round two, Mr. Joseph.
Okay. Currently, with this program right here, currently with energy, they provide us the pole. We are using their pole for the, what you call.
That's
So in your program, I have to put up new pole?
No, you do not. And you don't, even if you don't go through the program, as a municipality, you can request to put your own lights up on the Entergy pole. That's a right that you have. It's not really published, but you have that right. So
Well,
you
they
can
made
change
us
out lights.
change. When I had some, I went to LEDs, they made us change the pole.
They don't charge you for the pole, though.
No, but they got the fixture or something, they got some charges there. I don't
Yeah, well,
remember
yeah,
what
they
they
took
were.
with the charges.
But if you want a light where there's no pole, you definitely gotta pay for the pole.
That's correct.
Correct.
You'd have to put up a new pole.
So they have to run the electricity there. Okay. All right,
And
thanks.
a follow-up to Mr. Joseph's excellent question. We haven't talked about it. We have what, Aaron, help me, 16 parks and recreation, or,
I think so, about
so, which would have, I guess, poles. And so that could be, for example, part of it right from the get-go.
Sure.
Not just street lighting is what I'm trying to,
That's right. The program is not exclusive to street lighting. We're doing a large amount of recreational lighting. Those are big, inefficient lights, and we're doing an upgrade in St. Tammany Parish at Pelican Park. We're doing an upgrade
yeah, I'm aware of that.
in Baton Rouge at Burbank Park. We're about to start doing upgrades at Southeastern University and in Harahan as well. So definitely, it's a great program for sports and recreational lighting.
And of course, it goes without saying, but I'll say it, the money we could save in recreation could go back. We don't have dedicated funding for recreation as parish.
Right.
To them for other recreational purposes, because we're always scraping for a dollar here and there. So what is the pleasure of this committee? Do we want to make any kind of a recommendation to the full council? And if so, what form does that take? One question before that, I'm still in the round two, Mr. Lawler.
probably a really stupid question, but the installation, I mean, is this as simple as what we do in the house, is taking out a light bulb, put a new one in?
I'll make a
Or do we have to do rewiring?
You know, it depends, as far as rewiring goes, it depends on the fixture and what you're doing. But it is a straightforward installation. Typically, electrical contractors go to check that the existing infrastructure is good, the existing wires are good. They can be replaced if they're worn or brittle from heat or things like that. But it is a very straightforward installation. In general, all lighting is 3 wires. So it's very straightforward.
The black wire, the white wire, the green one, I'm not really sure what it does, I just don't touch any of them.
That's right, yeah. No.
Okay.
The green one you can touch.
Well, I don't touch any of them.
Or the right one.
I find if you lick them, you find out which one is lit.
Okay, so Mr. Hewitt, you're obviously stimulating the interest of this committee, so we have one more round two, Mr. Dawson.
Okay.
No, I'd
You
just
wanna make a
like to, I'm like to make a recommendation that we pursue this further, that we try to identify in our parks and recreation, what kind of opportunities we have there, and then those enough that are, I have to be careful how I put that. Those of us that have the lighting districts that, I'd like to pursue it.
You want to make that in the
myself.
form of a motion, Mr. Dawson?
That's so moved.
I'll second that, but I want to make sure, and it's may take I don't know if I'll take an amendment to that, but just make sure that we're working with Ken Dawson and the DNR with the loans, that we're trying to get through that. That we're coordinating both, because a lot of those are going towards recreation right now. We're trying to get LED lights. Just make sure that we coordinate the 2 projects.
Sure.
Ms. Taylor, you comfortable with the motion as you?
This is just to pursue it further and and identify what our needs are in the parks and
Working with-
the eligible lighting districts, working with the
administration.
other Dawson to get, the DNR.
The better looking
Coordinate,
one?
yes.
He's taller.
Okay, I think, OJ, before we call the question, I think you want round 3 maybe?
Now, I just want one more question. In your system, the state required on state highways that they have an engineering, study done. Does you do that engineering study?
Typically, it's not an engineering study. Typically, when you're upgrading on state highway, you do have to pull a permit, you do have to provide a new photometric diagram, and we do provide that as well.
Okay.
Okay, so it's been moved by Mr. Dawson and second by Mr. Lawler that we proceed with this. Any further discussion? Any objection to the motion on the table? Hearing none, that motion carries. And we thank you, Mr. Hewitt. Item number 9 is the MB Design Contract Extension. William Daniel.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members, all this does is extend the term of the contract. It's part of the USDA loan, so we
Move to
just...
extend.
Second.
Been moved by Mr. Dawson, second by Mr. Joseph, that we extend the MB Design contract. There's no money involved in this, correct, Mr. Daniel? It's just a time extension.
It is.
Any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, that motion carries. Item number 10 is an introduction.
Well, it's really move to the council for introduction.
Introduction of ordinance is going to be, yeah, exactly. We're a recommending body, but so apologize for the wording there. To add section 13-23.1 parentheses 1, close A-B water to establish charges for water services, to review water service charges annually for possible increases to the charges due to inflation, and to identify the frequency and location of publication of any water service charges increases. Mr. Daniel.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members. So last utility committee hearing, we did the rates, and we talked about this particular couple of paragraphs that I wanted to put in. I didn't quite have them done. I do now, so I'm bringing them for your review and see what you think. Basically, what it does is it says the parish shall establish charges for water service by ordinance, and they establish these services based on all indebtedness, expense, administration of operation, maintenance, etc. And then it provides, however, that the infrastructure division director shall review the water service charges on an annual basis and may recommend an increase to those charges based on the CPI by notifying the council, and if the council does not object, then the CPI increase would take place.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Daniel. And just for historicals, usually I set these things up. This is something I know Councilman Benny Johnson is particularly interested in. And so we'll go to questions in a moment. But first of all, in your package, gentlemen and lady, is Exhibit A in our code. That'll be Chapter 13, Occupational Licenses, Taxes, and Regulations. And if you'll note, under Section 1323, Water, the entire number 1 section is underlined, meaning that this is all new language. And as Mr. Daniel says, it relates now to the CPI.
And also on the second page, 2 should be new language as well. It should be underlined.
Yeah, okay, that's just a typo there, so.
Right.
2
Any
as well.
change in the water service charges shall be published at least once in the newspaper and on the website.
Okay.
And no change would take place
Yeah,
until.
the only thing that's in there is what we already approved, which is the rates themselves, I guess.
Correct.
Okay, so we'll open the floor up for discussion. Mr. Dawson.
William, the only thing I'm not comfortable with is whether this is in accordance with our charter, because it's a fee increase that we're doing without a vote of the council. So, you know, I would like to have that. I'd like to have that checked. You
Sure.
know, I don't know. I mean, if we had this automatic, but the fact that you're sending it to the council just for objections, I'm not sure. I mean, because normally any fee increases takes the two-thirds majority of the council.
I figured maybe if this was voted on with a 2/3 increase, that it would count, but maybe not.
I
But
don't know.
I'll
I
run
mean,
it-
if you
I'll run it
had
by-
some like 4% that was, and we voted on it, but this has the discretion, you know, it gives the infrastructure director all the discretion, and the council never votes on that.
Well, except I send it to you if one person objects and it doesn't take place.
Yeah,
I'll run it by O'Neill and see what he
Yeah.
says.
All fees have to be approved by the council in the charter. I mean, I'm not the lawyer here, we don't have it
No,
tonight.
I think
but-
Mr. President's absolutely right. You know, so it is written, so it shall be. So how do we want to handle this?
well, I think we need to,
We should
I'd
go
like
to
to
the
ask
council.
that we get O'Neill or somebody to recommend either one, this is fine like it is, or two, recommend a change when we bring it to the council.
Yeah, change can be made at the council level. I
Right.
mean, you can move this forward to the council, not
Right.
slow it down, and then if
Right.
there's any kind of legal issues, the attorney ought to identify it and bring it out.
So, Mr. Dawson, do you wish to make that in the form of a motion?
Move forward with a legal advice, right?
Yeah, there we go. Move this forward to the full council with the understanding that the that our attorney has to,
Sign.
has to make a recommendation about whether this is in compliance with our charter or not. And if it's not, then, you know, recommendations for making it in compliance. Was that
Okay.
long enough there?
Yeah, that's good, and I even understood that one, so, and second by Mr. Joseph, is that correct?
Second.
All right, so it's been moved and second by Councilman Dawson and Joseph respectively, that we send this to the council with the caveat that the legal counsel will look at to be sure it's consistent with our parish constitution, the homeroom charter, and so forth and so on. And if it's not, then to make recommendations on how we can fix it. Any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, that motion also carries. Okay, so moving right along is item number 11, and I apologize for the long agenda, but obviously this committee has a lot of work to do.
Can we move up 16? We have a lot of people here for.
We're just about, these are short.
Okay.
Mr.,
I mean, I don't object, but I mean,
And I got my water plant operator
Okay,
here,
well,
so I
let's
need to
don't-
get him
let's don't
back.
hold him up.
all right.
He's more important to me than
These
they
will be
are
quick,
back there.
because Mr. Daniels right, they're all just monthly reports, and you guys have seen these over and over. This is the Parish Utilities of Ascension Revenue and Consumption Report for 2019, the month of March. Mr. Daniel.
So, when I'm always talking about how well the water plant's running, what I'm really saying is how well Jason's running the water plant. Thank you. So, but this is, every month we bring you the consumption and revenue report, and so it's pretty self-explanatory, and be happy to answer any questions about it.
Questions to either gentleman? Hearing none, we thank you, and we thank you for the excellent job that Mr. Daniels says you're doing, sir.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Item number 12 is the PUA monthly leak report for the month of, for March 2019.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. These are the leaks that were reported and the total water loss for those leaks. We had one rather large,
Must have had a pipe break.
yes.
So for those at home that are keeping score, in front of us in our packets is 8 leaks, and the total water loss is 2,424,960.
2 million of it in one day.
Yep.
Over a couple days.
On 3/11/2019, it looks like we had one that was substantial. It's-
It was a big piece of pipe.
Right. Any questions about the leak report? Mr. Joseph?
Yes, and the other thing is, the river been high, so they can't fix leaks within 1,500 feet of the river. That was something I forgot about the last couple of times.
Depends on how much we have to dig, but yes, sir, if we have to dig any substantially, then we can't fix it.
And that means the river been high for a long period of time, so some leaks been going for a while.
Yes, sir.
Okay, moving right along, any further questions? Number 13 is the ACUD number 2 revenue and consumption report for March 2019. Mr. Daniel.
This is the, again, this is the revenue report for ACD number 1.
500 gallons a minute, shouldn't have to.
Be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions about the revenue and consumption report for March 2019?
None.
Hearing none, thank you, Mr. Daniel. We'll move on again. Item number 14 is the PUA water audit report for March.
Yes, sir, we produced 31 million gallons. We accounted for everything but 335,000.
Wow.
That number
Between our
get mighty.
processed water, leaks, flushing, everything we do to maintain the system. And we've been working tirelessly to narrow those numbers down. I know before that they were a little out of whack, but this is as accurate as we can get it with the information we
You
have.
came at a good time, sir, because I think this committee's lost its will to be combative in any way. Actually, when the numbers get better, they get better. Mr.
Right.
Jones, maybe you want to say something?
Okay, then, I want to make sure I'm asking the question. So the water loss of the 2 million gallons of water, if I'm not mistaken,
2 million and.
Oh,
It's
that's
accounted for. We know what happened to it. There's 335,000 we don't know what happened to.
all right, y'all got me, okay.
That's all included in the process and
Red letter
report.
day.
We good.
See, the whole purpose is to narrow down how much water you don't know where it goes. And so we're getting that number smaller and smaller. One time we had it negative, but that was.
That's when you created, I'll forever tease you about disobeying the third law of
good.
thermodynamics where matter cannot be created or destroyed, but we like those negative numbers.
Y'all do understand how that happens, right?
We've been explained,
Okay.
it's been explained to us.
But hopefully, we're gonna get a lot better meters here in the very near future, so, we'll either have bigger water losses again, or we'll have more accurate ones, I'm not sure, maybe both.
Okay, so our 15th item is the Parish Utilities of Ascension Water Audit Report year-to-date for 2019. Mr. Daniel,
That report is just the year-to-date, and the water loss, the water consumption went down a little bit in March because we read March for February, and there were shorter days in February, so.
any questions for Mr. Daniel? No. Hearing none, we're going to move along to the final thing on the agenda, certainly the chairman's favorite, not just because it's the final, but what we've all been waiting for, and we really thank all the people who are going to be involved in this discussion. I suspect it'll be reasonably vigorous for staying at this late hour. Item 16 is a consideration of a cooperative endeavor agreement between, as I said earlier in the chairman's remark, it says Ascension Parish Government. That needs to be changed to the Ascension Consolidated Utility District Number 2 and Ascension Sewer LLC. This is for approval to forward this to the full council if we get that far. Mr. Daniel.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members, and I do appreciate your patience in getting to this. Obviously, it's late, but also this is, I think, a very exciting moment in Ascension Parish.
Yep.
And I tell you, I'm really grateful to be here explaining it. I had a great opportunity to come here. I had great support from my president, from the CAO in getting here, and I obviously had great support from the council. So what we're talking about tonight is putting together a team to have regional sewer system on the East Bank in ACUD number 2. You know, without going into all the history, there's been obviously a lot of studies on this. There's been unsuccessful attempts. They go back 20, 30 years even. But I can tell you that if you listen to Mr. Berger tonight, it is time to fix this problem. And it's time to fix it before the state or the federal government tells us to fix it. I can just tell you that if that does happen, and I know that we've heard it a lot and maybe people don't believe it anymore, but every day I wake up thinking the next day I'm going to get a consent decree. So it would be so much more expensive to do it under a consent decree than it would to do it on our own. So when I got here, I looked at a lot of different methods of trying to do this. And I've been, look for the best system. There's some people in the audience that I talked to quite a bit about it. We looked at different federal programs. We looked at how to get the money. And I finally came to the conclusion that a public-private partnership would be the absolute best way to do it. To that end, about November, I think, I met with Bernhard Capital Partners. We explained all the issues. We explained the problems. I said, look, there's private providers. You have to have those on your team as well. I said, and there's people in this parish who have a lot of knowledge about that. We want them on the team too. So I'm pleased to say that we have put that team together, and they are here tonight, and we're going to talk to you about that partnership. And as the chairman said, it's Ascension Sewer LLC. This, I think, embodies the best of all of the elements that we want as a parish sewer system. We want to own our own system, and this proposal, we will own the system from the very start. We will have the authority to regulate the system, so it will be entirely in our purview to be able to set the rates and make sure that the residents of Ascension have fair sewer rates that they can count on, and that businesses, when they come here, that they'll know what the sewer rates are going to be. And basically bringing some sort of sanity to the sewer issue here in Ascension Parish. This proposal will merge all the private systems and the public systems into one regulated body by Ascension Parish government, or actually by Ascension Consolidated Utility District number 2. So we have a PowerPoint. I hope I can make this thing work. So the time is now, to act is now. We have the team, talked about the benefits. We're going to go over the implementation plan here in a few slides further. So let's kind of get on with the deal. We talked about consent decrees. We have a very fragmented system. We have private operators. We are owning public systems. We're gaining more public systems by the month. But we also have at least 16,000 aerobic treatment plants, and probably as many septic systems as well. And what this proposal will do is eventually, not right away, but eventually will consolidate all those systems into 1 or 2 plants that will discharge to the Mississippi River. So the immediate problem is getting the sewer out of Bayou Manchac, and apparently maybe New River and Blind River as well. But LDEQ has already mandated that we get the sewer out of Manchac. So we need to do something very quickly in that regard. I can't even imagine, I know what happened in East Baton Rouge Parish when we had floods. I can't even imagine how much sewer was in the water and the flooding here in Ascension as well. Even heavy rain events can cause sewer overflow as well. And we talked about, Mr. Berger talked about the home treatment systems. We need to do something about that. I know it's, the chairman's already told me it's unpopular for me to say that people who have these systems aren't paying anything. They are actually contributing to the problem. I feel very comfortable in saying that probably many of them are not working, and they need to be checked. They need to be taken care of, and we're going to have a proposal to do that as well in the future. We're going to spend probably in the neighborhood of $3 million to rebuild a smaller sewer system behind Oak Grove Elementary so that we can handle the sewer that's going to come from those neighborhoods, because we have nowhere else to go with it. We're going to spend $3 million on a temporary solution. We have to do it, but it's very painful to do so. And this lack of sewer infrastructure is only going to become worse and worse and more prevalent throughout the parish. And the parish is growing. So lack of infrastructure, a growing parish, I mean, nothing but two trains headed towards each other that are going to be a problem, and I think everybody's aware of it. So the time to do this is now, and we have the plan to do it. And I'm going to let the team members for that plan kind of talk about it from here on. But I think this is exciting. And again, I appreciate the opportunity to come here and do this. This was really something I dreamed about doing, and I hope we're close.
Thank you, William. Of course, it's not going to work for me now. Council members and President Matassa, thank you very much for letting me join you tonight. My name is Jeff Bodier. I'm a managing director with Bernhard Capital Partners, and I'm also here today on behalf of Ascension Sewer. Ascension Sewer is a partnership formed between some of the major players that have been involved historically and presently in Ascension Parish with regard to wastewater treatment. They include Ascension Wastewater Treatment, which is not only the largest private provider in Ascension Parish with over 16,000 customers, it's the largest private wastewater treatment company in the state of Louisiana. And Mr. Tom Pertwee with Ascension Wastewater Treatment is here today. We also have on our team GSA Consulting, and Mr. Glenn Shaheen is with us here tonight, as is Jared Monso with Hartman Engineering. We are Bernhard Capital Partners, and together this team has the ability to execute and deliver the regional sewer system that Ascension has been attempting to accomplish for a number of years. This consortium will bring the customers, it will bring the financing, and it will bring the local expertise to execute this project. I know that you are intimately familiar with our experts, with AWT, and with Mr. Shaheen's company, as well as with Mr. Monsa's company. You may not be as familiar with Bernhard Capital Partners. Bernhard Capital Partners was founded in 2013 by the principals of the former Shaw Company, following their sale of that company to CB&I. Jim Bernhard and Jeff Jenkins personally began with their own investments to create a company that acquired primarily companies in the industrial services industries. And those companies may well be familiar with to a number of you. Currently existing under the Bernhard Capital portfolio of service companies include companies such as Epic Piping, which has over 600 employees in Livingston Parish and was built from the ground up. Bernhard Energy Systems, which is currently executing efficiency projects and providing all of the mechanical and HVAC systems, not only to the New Grove Hospital, but to New Ochsner hospitals and to hospitals across the country. Included within Bernhard Energy Systems is Bernhard Mechanical. It's the oldest plumbing company in the state of Louisiana, and just a couple weeks ago celebrated its 100th year anniversary. Bernhard Mechanical has performed the plumbing construction for some of the most iconic projects in the state of Louisiana, including the Superdome and the state capitol, just to name two. Atlas Consulting has performed extensive work in surveying and project management for not only wastewater utilities, but for other utilities across the country. Chara is an environmental services company. United Utility is a company which manages underground electrical transmission and distribution assets. And of course, Brown and Root is one of the best-known industrial construction and service companies in the world. These are the companies that are currently owned by and fall under the portfolio of Bernhard Capital. What we are seeking to do, what we will do, is add Ascension Sewer to that portfolio of companies to be the first sewer utility in the Bernhard portfolio. We have, as we mentioned, an extremely capable group of partners and local Ascension companies to assist us in that effort. Why will this be successful when other efforts have not been? Well, we can learn not only from the mistakes of the past efforts, but we can also capitalize on the good parts of the past efforts. And by involving these people who are intimately familiar with the system, who operate the system, who own the system, and who know the system better than anyone else, we can deliver to you the most cost-effective, efficient program. We also will make use of the existing infrastructure and the existing technology, the existing studies that the parish has already, in many instances, asked these people to perform, so that we're not reinventing the wheel. We'll incorporate those into our new projects. We also recognize that the most important aspect of delivering a successful system is to consolidate the private and the public systems. And through our unique partnership that we have formed with AWT, we will be able to guarantee that the 16,000 customers currently under AWT's system will be incorporated into the parish system. We will effectively be merging the public and private systems to create one consolidated regional Ascension sewer system on the East Bank. In addition to these experts, we will bring the best that Ascension Parish in Louisiana has to offer. We intend to have a DBE program as well as a DBE mentoring program that will be an essential part of this effort. We expect our entire process to be transparent. We will include the public and the council along the way, so you will repeatedly hear me say the word cooperative. And what we mean when we say that is we intend to truly be partners with the parish and with UD number 2 to make sure that we work together to create the system that Ascension Parish truly needs and deserves. As a utility executive myself, and a little quick point about my history, I came from originally NRG Energy over in New Roads where the big Cajun assets are, and came to Bernhard a little bit over a year ago directly from CLECO, a regulated electric utility up in North Louisiana. My whole life as a utility executive has been serving municipals and co-ops across the state and across the Southeast. There is only one thing that a utility customer really cares about, is the rates. That's what it gets down to. One of the flaws we felt in the last proposal in 2015 was that the rates were too high. What we are proposing is to bring a system in which the rates will remain competitive with the surrounding areas, including Baton Rouge and the other parishes. And we're also proposing, as we will discuss in further detail, that those rates will remain under the control of the parish council, just as they've always been. What we will propose is to spend the next 90 days putting together a fully comprehensive plan with regard to the full phases of our regional system and deliver with that the costs, the expected rate impact, the timing, and the full execution plan and the parties involved. Just to highlight, to show you that the parties, our team has already been working. There's been a number of studies. And so what we want to do is optimize the benefits of those studies that have already been performed and make sure that we modify those to address the current needs. Here's a current example. We expect our proposed Phase 1 to be will be very close to, I believe, what y'all called the first 2 phases of the last project. It's broader than what I've heard defined as the P16, modified P16. Significantly different is what we are proposing to do is cover that area all the way down 73 along the river and to have one central treatment plant that discharges into the river. Our initial estimates indicate that this first phase could serve approximately 16,000 of 19,000 parish customers and potentially remove 2.3 million gallons per day of effluent from Bayou Manchac. It would probably be a 5 million gallon per day plant to start with, but it would be capable of being expanded with the additional phases of the project. And our first estimate is that this phase of the project will cost roughly $225 million. So what is our implementation plan? What we're asking for is to execute a cooperative endeavor agreement, that is the structure we're proposing, between Ascension Consolidated Utilities District Number 2 and Ascension Sewer. We'll spend the time between June and August to deliver our comprehensive plan, to conduct public and stakeholder outreach of a fully transparent process, and to present final terms for the construction and operating agreement to the council for approval in August. And then in September, assuming favorable approval by the council, we will begin as partners to build out the new East Bank regional system using local firms. We will integrate AWT's customers into the parish system, and Ascension Sewer will assume operation of the parish sewer system. So I've summarized here the key terms of the proposed cooperative endeavor agreement. As I mentioned, AWT will be merged into Ascension Sewer, and those customers will be integrated into the parish system, into ACUD number 2. Ascension Sewer will become responsible for all operating expenses and capital investment associated with the existing system as well as the future build-out system, again, as we expect the first phase to be the initial $225 million outlay. Ascension Sewer would receive the rights to finance, construct, operate, and maintain the new East Bank regional system. The parish, however, will continue to own both its existing system and it will immediately own the new system. What we're asking is that if we expect to accomplish the final proposal and the approval by the council in August, but what we're asking is that if for some reason the parties do not reach final agreement, that the period of the CEA could extend for up to 2 years before it would drop dead, so to speak, as we say. Why is this unique? Why is it different than other proposals you haven't seen before? First of all, the parish, ACUD, I'll get used to saying that, number 2, again, owns and has ultimate control over all assets associated with the system. The parish will retain oversight, performance of the utility, ensure customer satisfaction, ensure our performance and meeting your expectations, and you will have complete rate-making authority just as you always have had. It avoids the need for the parish to issue any new debt, as we will take responsibility for the financing of the projects and all capital and operating expenses, which obviously allows you to have bonding capacity for other needs. You will potentially benefit from growth of the system. The system is owned by the parish. So as we grow it, as we add territory, as we add customers, as we potentially incorporate new systems, you will own it. And you will benefit in that ownership, and obviously the ratepayers will benefit by lower rates. By having you own the system, the parish own the system, it remains a public system, and therefore we will continue to qualify for benefits of federal and state disaster recovery funds for example, FEMA, and we will take advantage of the low-cost financing that is available for public systems such as the state revolving funds and the WIFIA federal infrastructure program. In exchange, now the parish would not have to put any money up from the parish or any financing for the project. In exchange, what we will ask is for the revenues from the operation of the utility system, for which we will be responsible for the period of the cooperative endeavor agreement of 30 years. So again, what we're asking for today is for the utility committee's approval with the recommendation to the parish council for consideration of the cooperative endeavor agreement. We're asking for that to be considered by the council at the next meeting of May 16th. We will continue to conduct, we've already begun, but we will continue our public outreach and meetings with community stakeholders. We intend for this to be a public process. We do not intend to go away and come back to you in 90 days with a proposal. We intend to work back and forth with you to get your feedback, the public's feedback, so that you will well know what we plan to deliver to you in that 90 days. It will be truly a cooperative process. We will ask for the council to approve the cooperative endeavor agreement between ACUD number 2 and Ascension Sewer on May 16th. And from that time, we will begin our partnership to build the new regional East Bank system. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions that the council may have.
Before you answer questions, I'd like to say one more thing. So what this means is we have a sewer system. We don't have to spend as much time digging out ditches. We can widen our roads, and we can promise the citizens of the parish that when they let their dog out in the backyard, he won't be tracking sewer in the house. So I think it's a great proposal, and now you can ask all the questions you like.
Okay, so that's a perfect segue, and it's not obvious. He's referring to Councilman Doc Sadley's near brush with the divorce court this week. I'm a MODAD. It's like Alcoholics Anonymous, I guess, user. And I have a nice home in Prairieville, Greenbrier Estates, 2.5-acre lots in there. A lot of politicians, besides myself, even live in the subdivision. It's a really nice place. Unfortunately, my MODAD dumps sewer right into the ditch on Perkins Road, which goes into Bayou Manchac, which is, we learned tonight several times, is an impaired waterway. Those other neighbors of mine, I love them to death, but their sewer travels behind my house in what's a parish-owned drainage/utility servitude. It stays wet 24/7, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. I have 2 chocolate Labradors. They like water. They're both about 3 years old now, and they like to play in it, and that sewer comes into my house on their feet. I did it until last week almost on a daily basis, and that's what the divorce court is all about. My bride told me, look, big dog, that's her affectionate term for me, fix this, not just for the parish and the citizens of Ascension, not because of the disease, not because of, putting the clippings in the ditch and causing us to have a greater frequency of cutting and occluding those ditches and the risk of, you haven't heard Doc yet, you've been hearing polio a lot, but I plan to present to this committee eventually 16 additional diseases you can catch from being in our sewer-laden ditches, things like Cryptosporidium, Giardia, you name it. So I got a fence company, we'll leave a name out of it, to not offend any other, it was a local Ascension fence company, to put in a $3,190 fence in my backyard just last week to keep those dogs out of that sewer area and keep my marriage intact. I think it was a wise investment, although I'd much rather have had a sewer bill. Probably before Doc Sadley dies, we could probably never recoup that investment. You saw some of the numbers in the packet that Jeff just presented for the monthly charge that they're talking about. It's no secret I've talked before about banging up my lawnmowers and changing riding lawnmowers at a greater frequency because just last week before I put the fence, sure enough, it hadn't rained in about 8 to 10 days. The neighbors were complaining because the Mohawk effect in my front ditch on, not Perkins in this case, that one's bad enough, but on Greenbrier Estates itself, it empties into Perkins. I bogged down my tractor. Then I bogged down my car trying to get it out of the ditch. And in so doing, a good Samaritan from Santa Maria just happened to be coming through my subdivision. Doesn't know me, didn't know him from Adam. Shows you how good the people are in this parish. He had a worn wrench on the front of his Jeep and with a big long cable so he didn't bog his vehicle down. He pulled both my tractor out and my vehicle, which, by the way, this is no slam of Toyota, but front end drive on one wheel just don't cut it in Ascension Parish with our ditches. I could add with these dogs, my veterinary bills have been atrocious. Playing in that slop, they're constantly getting skin irritations. My veterinarian says, you must have sewer problems. Yes, sir, I do. So I'm tired of it. I'm ready to move on. You know I'm already a cheerleader. I'm going to stop there. I'm going to open this up for questions. I think the thing that we cannot overemphasize tonight is something that was in this PowerPoint presentation. The time, ladies and gentlemen, for sewer is now. In fact, I would only modify it to say it was yesterday. I make no apologies. We tried hard, all of us, but the blushing bride, P16, modified P16, you heard that term tonight, Ascension Environmental, Public-Private Partnership, failed for various reasons. There's no reason to even go into that. But it's different now. You know, there are a lot of naysayers. I'm going to tell you, man, I got 5,000 followers on my Facebook page, and they're hammering me every day. I've got people telling me, Doc, you're a fool to even try this, because if you do, you're going to lose the election. Well, so be it. But we're either going to have sewer in Ascension Parish or Doc Sally's going to die trying. It's time now to bring sewer. So let's turn this over. Mr. Bill Dawson, you're grinning like a Chessy cat, so I'm sure you have a lot to say this evening.
Well, I mean, actually, it's exciting, really is. I mean, I hate to say that, something like this it makes you excited, but, you know, I do have, like, I do want to get a little better understanding, Jeff, of the, you know, my appreciation is 2 CEAs, or is there 1 CEA for 90 days, and then that will be converted into a longer term? What's the?
What we're proposing is, and the parish attorney has the draft that we've gone through, but we're proposing 1 CEA, but that the CEA provides for a construction and operating agreement. So the CEA is a much more just general terms agreement, and it says that we will reach agreement on a more detailed agreement that will be the construction and operation agreement that would provide much more of the details with regard to, let's say, for example, the cost of performance obligations, what the rate structure will be, what will be the terms upon which, you know, rates would be reconsidered and what the process would be. And, you know, you could set forth within that agreement what we're very used to is for example, operating metrics. So you could say, okay, this is what we want on customer satisfaction. This is what we want from a standpoint of efficiency. We would like to see some renewable programs developed along with efficiency programs as to how we do things.
I guess what I'm looking for, what are the obligations that you're expecting from the parish for this 90-day period?
From the 90-day period, what we're asking you to do is work with us and give us your feedback so that we can give you the comprehensive proposal. We're asking for exclusivity as the party that you deal with. And what we're asking—
For this 90-day period. All of that is going to be just for 90 days.
What we're actually asking for is, well, let me clarify. What we're asking for is, we're asking that the CEA could exist for up to 2 years with that exclusivity, so that, as I mentioned, so that we work cooperatively to ensure that we reach acceptable, detailed construction and operating agreement that everyone is happy with. We do not, clearly, we work fast, and we believe that we will be ready to reach the definitive agreement in 90 days. However, we will be expending extensive amount of money to put this proposal together, in excess of $1 million, probably closer to 2. We will be working a great deal of work to put our partnership together with AWT and provide for the creation of that company and the effort that will take to integrate that into the parish system. We can have all that ready in 90 days, but what we're asking for is that there may be some back and forth. And we want the ability to not have that 90 days perhaps used to, and all of our information will be public.
No,
as
that's
I said.
fine. I mean,
So in other
you're
words,
asking for up to 2 years for some exclusive agreement to provide sewer to Ascension Parish. Is that?
correct,
Is that a summary of that?
correct.
But we want to get this done in 90 days. We
Yes.
don't want the 2-year
No, I
clock
get
to run.
that. I'm trying to find the parameters of what we're gonna approve tonight. And then, now, clarification again is that you're not expecting to be reimbursed for anything over the CEA that we're being asked to approve tonight.
Absolutely not.
Okay, so this is a
This is-
no-cost
this is-
option to the
this is-
parish. You guys are taking the risk on that, and
Absolutely.
The
There's
only
some-
cost to the parish is that I want to go out with an RFQ and hire a financial company that will work for the parish and take their proposal and make a recommendation to the parish, to the council, that says this will work, or it won't work, or they're asking for too much money, or whatever it
I would
is.
support that.
But I think we need that kind of financial advice when we get the proposal back, just to make sure that everybody has all the information they need to make this decision. And also, Bernhard at their expense, or the Ascension Sewer LLC at their expense, is going to hire Dr. Richardson. You want to talk about that?
Yeah, so, we think there's a huge economic development component to this. It's not only the hampering effects that the current sewer situation is causing on economic development. If you want to open a business in Ascension Parish and you got to pay $40,000 to build your own treatment plant, that's going to affect your decision. But we're talking about a multi-phase, multi-hundreds of millions of dollars construction project being executed within the parish. So what we typically do is have either Dr. Richardson or someone perform an economic impact study, and we will provide that as well during this period of time to show these will not only be the improvement in economic development, but the actual positive direct and indirect job creation and benefits brought to the parish just as a result of such a large construction project.
Right. So, William, and I'm not sure what we don't have a document to send to the council.
We have one. We'll get it to you tomorrow for your review to send to the council.
So what are we gonna approve tonight?
Permission for the administration
Can I
to
address that question?
prepare the document.
Mr. Dawson, allow me to address that? I'm not sure it totally matters. I would be more comfortable, obviously, with it, I'll say that. But we're just a recommending body, so if we recommend something tonight that's not up to snuff, whatever legal has, and it's a day late, dollar short, the full council gets the real bite at the apple, and they'll be able to say, this is total BS or it's not. And I know that's weak, and I don't know.
O'Neill still has the document.
No, I'm with that, but what I'm trying to understand specifically, what kind of motion are you looking for from?
So what I'm looking is for a motion to send to the council the CEA under the terms that we have discussed for vote on the full council on May 16th to develop the proposal in 90 days and then come back to the council at the end of that 90-day period. Now, like he said, it's not going to be, they're going to go back somewhere and then all of a sudden magically reappear in 90 days. We plan on having an ongoing conversation with the council, with the public over that 90-day period, so that when we show up on day 90 for the council hearing, then everybody is going to pretty much know where they stand on that document anyway.
So I guess to get back to the specifics, you know, we approved the administration, I guess, with the parish president and yourself to vet this document, and then, you know, that's the document that would be presented to the council. Are you guys good with that? Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yeah, before we recognize Mr. Lawler, let me say two things. I am comforted with this arrangement for a secondary reason as well. It is this committee's, I don't want to use the word privilege, I guess responsibility would be a better descriptive, to do the right thing as it is all council members. So certainly, if this document in any way is not representing what was represented to us tonight in this PowerPoint presentation, any member sitting up here right now can reverse that decision next time. So that behooves you guys to put together as near perfect document, you know, as possible. Number two, just for the record, Dr. Bill Richardson's name was bandied around as someone on the Ascension. I'm gonna have to get used to that myself. The LLC side. It was not recognized who that is. For those who don't know, that's the chancellor of the LSU Agricultural Center and my former boss. I have the utmost respect for this gentleman.
Different Richardson. This is the Dr. Richardson from the,
Oh, okay.
the bill, from the economics
Well, I
department.
know him as well, and
Yes.
and I have
Jim
great
Richardson.
respect for him as well, though I didn't work close with him. But let me just say, I like that idea, because both parties have outside parties to take a look at it. And I guess in terms of, we're gonna have a motion tonight, is that gonna have to be included as a
Chairman?
recommendation to the full council, or is that just not necessary right now?
Yeah, I would like to send it to the full council for a vote. But if that document does not represent exactly what we talked about tonight, you won't have to,
Worry about
it, because I'm not gonna
for
bring
third
it.
party. Okay, very fine. Mr. Lawler.
Yeah, just gonna cut to the chase, because all we're really doing here is looking to get a proposal in 90 days. I mean, we're not binding ourselves to anything. So I'm gonna make a motion that we recommend to the full council, allowing the administration to pursue the cooperative endeavor agreement between, I think I have this right, ACUD 2, as opposed to Ascension Parish Government, and Ascension Sewer LLC. Additionally, and in addition to that, I want to make as part of that motion, a recommendation to the full council that we submit an RFQ to find an independent financial advisor to advise us of this. We could do that all at once, I would think.
Second.
Thank you.
Second.
That'd be a third.
Second.
Math is terrible for y'all. I'm really worried.
I'm taking notes, so the chair will catch up in just a second. So as I understand it, the motion from Mr. Dawson, second by multiple individuals, but we'll give Mr., no, actually, the motion was by Mr. Lawler.
Mr.
Yes.
Lawler.
And the
Lawless.
second was by OJ, and then our
I
Madam
beat him.
Chairwoman, so we can only have 1 second, so I guess OJ, you spoke just seconds ahead. To allow the administration to pursue, is what I captured, a cooperative endeavor agreement between the two parties, ACUD number 2 and the consortium. And also the second part, Mr. Lawler, was to identify, if you restate that.
Yeah, to issue an RFQ for a independent financial, I don't know what you say, auditor, consultant, advisor.
Consultant.
Okay, so an RFQ for an independent auditor / advisor. Okay, everybody got that? Even me. Questions? Mr. Johnson, or had your hand up first?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, appreciate it. So I know Neil's not here tonight. I don't know, I guess one of the questions that pops into my head immediately with this, guys, with the exclusivity of it, is there some need for the parish to do this under an RFQ or not? Is there some kind of legal question as far as being able to do this?
Well, yes, we have explored that. First of all, this is a cooperative endeavor agreement, so we don't feel like an RFQ would be necessary under that. But the major reason is the parish is never going to pay this LLC a dime. So we don't think that an RFQ is required. But let's just talk about practicality. I think that everybody understands that without Ascension wastewater treatment, that nobody else would even be able to put a reasonable bid in. So all that would do, I think an RFQ would extend the time that we would get started. We would probably only get one bid anyway, and legally, we don't think that it's the right, that is a necessary thing to do because of the cooperative endeavor agreement.
Yes, if I can add, Williams, we want to make sure, first of all, that everything is done legally and completely legitimately. And so, you know, the parish needs to do what it thinks appropriate. However, what we're suggesting is this is not like a bid for a services agreement. This is a merger, a true combining. It's what cooperative endeavor agreements were intended for. You have a public entity and a private entity. We're proposing to merge them into a partnership. And so, as William said, it's truly unique in the sense that only AWT can merge its customers with the parish system. So theoretically, I guess there could be a request for other bidders, but it would not equate to the same type of transaction that we're even proposing, which is to consolidate the systems with the customers.
Yeah, and I'm not a legal scholar by any stretch of the imagination, guys. I just want to make sure that we're kind of dotting I's and crossing the T's as we go through this, because there's a lot of stuff within here I think we've been trying to get here for a long time. And I like a lot of what we're seeing in here. But I just want to make sure that we're doing it the right way, as you guys are as well. And I think, when you get into binding this together for 30 years and so forth and so on, going through this and how the rest of this stuff is going to work once you start going out to building stuff and so forth and so on, I don't have the legal, education to make sure that that's the right way to do it. I just want to make sure that whatever step we do is correct, to where it doesn't mess this up later on.
No, I completely agree, and I can also tell you that in going back and forth with Mr. Parrington and even having a review with Mr. Babin, that they expressed their concerns, they expressed the hangups that happened before with some of the structuring. So we made a specific attempt to address those items within the language of the CEA to make sure that we avoided anything that might create those problems, but obviously it needs to be reviewed and confirmed.
Right. And Jeff, this may be premature, so on the affordable rates and the stability of it, just the stuff you have listed here right now. So with East Baton Rouge and how they have the increase going on for 4% each year, and the taxes that subsidize the system, how do you see that affecting this over here? Do you have that information yet, or is that going to be part of what you're putting together here with the information over the next 90 days?
Look, obviously, I think it's something we need to sharpen our pencils on and get and refine quite a bit. We're not proposing to compete with the tax subsidy of Baton Rouge. In other words, this is a great story about why not to get in a situation when the EPA is telling you how to build something. Because even though Baton Rouge said we're going to only, and I'm talking about Williams' expertise, but they said we're only going to have that 4% rate increase until we complete the SSO program. Well, now they owe $1.8 billion worth of debt. So it's going to keep increasing till they cover that. City of Shreveport has $800 million worth of debt. The City of Lafayette, who's under consent order, is looking at multiple $100 worth of expense required to scope and determine even what the damage is. And so what you start to see is that once you get put into these consent decrees, you may have a plan to say we're going to control the rates, but once you put that debt on, you got to pay the bank. And they're going to require that you make a rate commitment sufficient to cover whatever bonds you've put in place. And so it's gotten a little out of control in Baton Rouge, which is why they have a dual structure. But what we're talking about is what the ratepayer pays every day, and that's what they care about. And so you need to be competitive not only from a standpoint of economic development, but attracting growth and attracting business, but you also have to make sure we have to put a plan together that the parish is happy with. we don't just have to satisfy 11 people on the council, we have to satisfy all the citizens of Ascension Parish, and that's the plan that we intend to put together.
And we think, again, Councilman, that we're going to be very competitive with Baton Rouge without the tax.
Because that's always been, you know, the big concern. One of the things we've always talked about up here is not only what the cost is going to be to the end user, but also being able to make sure that we can maintain the system and pay the debt service off for whatever may be what we have to do with this. And so, I mean, I'm excited with the proposal that as was what you brought so far with us tonight, and look forward to seeing what the rest of the information is going to prove forward going to with it. So I appreciate y'all bringing this forward. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Johnson. So we have a motion and a second on the table. Is there further discussion?
No.
Terry?
Yes, good evening. Thank you, Jeff. I appreciate first your efforts to educate us already. I think those have been well done, and I appreciate it very much. I'm certainly not an engineer nor a financier, so it has been very helpful to meet with you and to have this information broken down for me in a way that even I could understand it. So that bodes well, I think, for the public meetings that you propose. I think that that you will be able to, with your team, convey to the citizens exactly what you have conveyed to us, how this can work. And so I'm grateful for that, and I thank you in advance for the stakeholder meetings and the public meetings that you will do. I have a question. I want to know if your plan in 90 days will also include how you plan to provide service. And by that, I mean the people part of this business, not the engineering, all of that can be done. Where and how in your program, I would like to know at some point, do you plan to provide service to our citizens? How is that going to be managed?
Sure thing. So we obviously start at the core of Bernhardt with a team of executives, in addition to myself, that all come from the utility business, who are experienced in operating utilities and in building teams to operate utilities in a competitive environment, by the way. And we'd be happy to introduce you more fully to that team as we go along. Secondly, we start with a great resource, and we already have, in the sense, AWT is currently operating a utility that services 16,000 customers, and is currently providing services for a number of the parish facilities as well. So what we do is we both assimilate the existing systems. We see what we have at AWT, and we support that management team. We make additional investment where necessary. We bring in additional resources where necessary. And we do the same thing with the parish staff and resources. We do not go in generally to a situation like this and, quote, clean house, so to speak. We preserve jobs. We normally guarantee jobs as long as those people want jobs. And we work with the existing system. And then what we do is we bring our private industry experience to bear on creating a set of operational metrics that we are used to living with to ensure performance. And so, for example, customer satisfaction is a typical metric upon which utilities are measured. The billing system, we'll put in automated billing systems. We'll put in automated meter systems. We'll put in the latest technology from a standpoint both of being able to get accurate measurements, using things like AMI and automation, and where possible, new technologies such as, what other efficiencies can be brought to the system. We have experience doing that. You have companies that already have experience doing that. But just for example, one of the Bernhardt companies that I mentioned before, Epic Pipe, was started from the ground up in Livingston Parish, has over 600 employees, is now the most productive pipe manufacturing company currently in the world. That's what we do. We build companies, we take existing companies, and we make them better. And so we bring that expertise to bear, and we guarantee you that you will not only have a system that is just as reliable, just as affordable, performing just as good as the one you have today, it will be one that can compete in any private environment and you can expect that same type of customer satisfaction. So what does that mean? You're not going to get calls from constituents anymore. We're going to take care of those calls. We're going to make sure that they're happy. And if you get that call, then you're going to penalize us for it. And we're going to have to pay the price for it. And we're going to have to perform. And that's what that operating agreement is going to say. It's going to say, this is how we want you to perform, and we're going to agree to commit to that.
Thank you. I went into business many, many years ago in Ascension Parish, and Tom Pertwee was a customer of mine and became a friend. And so I see him in the audience. I would like to hear from him, his thoughts, if he would please, on his participation with this organization. And if that would, Tom, thank you very much.
Thank y'all. I appreciate the opportunity to talk with you. We have been to this table before, but never with a partner like this. This is something that we are excited about. We have entered into an agreement with Bernhard in principle, and we're on board 100%. We back everything that Jeff has said tonight, and we think that we have a real future here, and we're very excited about it. Anything else? Any other questions?
No, thank you, Tom, for letting me put you on the hot seat
No,
like
it's
that.
not a problem.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Tom, might I say before you go, sir, that's just what the doctor ordered.
Sure.
No pun intended. Mr. Joseph.
Jeff, Jeff, all I'm gonna tell you this here, I've been down this road before, okay? You probably don't have a problem with the councilman, the public, because when you come back here and you give them those rates, you sound good right now. All I'm just telling you, Ascension Parish is hard, very hard, on getting public sewage out the ditches. I mean, it is hard. I've been here before. Benny been here before. We have to go down this road. Nobody won't go down it. So I'm hoping that you can help us. I'm hoping. Because you're the last one. This CEA for 24 months, you're gonna have probably have a whole new crew up here. So, you know.
The first thing I'll tell you is we've been in some tough environments, and we're up to the challenge, and we expect to have this done before that next crew is in here.
All right.
Councilman Joseph, I knew from the day I got here that this was a special place, and not for the reasons that you just mentioned.
Okay.
This is a great place to live. It's a great place to raise your children. It's got great schools. It's got a great police, sheriff's office that takes care of the citizens. But having sewer in the ditches is way below the dignity of the people of this parish. And this proposal can get that sewer out of the ditches. And I feel very, very good about it. Tom feels good about it. I know these guys feel good. They're up to the challenge. So we're going to make you a believer, sir.
Okay. I don't mind, being a believer. Like I say.
Before the chair calls,
Been down this road before.
before the chair calls the question, I believe, Mr. Dawson, you had something.
Yes, sir. Just real quick. First of all, when I got here, the first person that I met, probably one of the first people, was Benny Johnson and current President Kenny Matassa. And one thing that he always said is that we had to get customers. And the first thing he started working on was the acquisition of MODAD and all this kind of thing, which fell through several times getting it. I want to say that seeing the team that's sitting out here, I mean, we have discussed this several times. I see GSA, I see Glenn sitting here, I see Jared, and these people have submitted proposals we're trying to do. I see Tom sitting here, and we talked a lot of times about it takes a combination of all these people to get it done. And on this committee with you, Mr. Chairman, and Benny Johnson and Councilman Joseph, who travel around to different treatment systems looking at the possibility, I think that this is a great opportunity. I think it's something that we could work on. I think that I'm glad to hear that 16,000 customers will be available, because the reason why we couldn't even close a $60 million SRF loan at 0.985% interest was because we couldn't establish the revenue. So now the revenue questions seem to have been answered. It's not so much of an engineering issue, it was a financial problem that I think we may have solved. So with that, thank you. I'm very excited about moving forward, and I'm glad to see the team that we have here and the support we have for this committee. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Gentlemen and lady? Hearing none, are there any objections to the motion on the table? I can't believe I'm gonna get to slap this gavel. Motion carries.
Thank you very much.
Item number 17.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Been moved by Mr. Dawson to adjourn, second by Councilman Joseph. We are adjourned.